All right, let's get right into it. It's kind of wild how one single social media post can just explode into a massive political firestorm, right? Well, that's exactly what we're looking at today. We're diving into a major controversy in Austria that led to some serious condemnation and, believe it or not, a very public apology. And we're actually going to start right at the peak of the response. Take a look at this quote. "I apologize, this is not who we are." Wow. I mean, you just don't hear an apology that direct, that public, from a top government official every single day. So you know something big must have happened. So that really is the big question here, isn't it? What on earth could have happened to get a response like that from a top government minister? To figure that out, we've got to rewind a bit and look at the spark that lit the fuse. All right, let's trace this back to the very beginning. So, what kicked all this off? It wasn't some big policy debate. It wasn't a formal speech. Nope. It was something we see all the time now, a single post online. So the post came from the Austrian People's Party, also known as the OVP. And you've got to understand, they're a huge deal, a key member of the country's ruling coalition. That means they're literally helping run the government. So we're not talking about some fringe group here. This came right from the heart of the party in power. And this is the line that just set everything off. The post basically suggested that, quote, "2/3 of people find it difficult to live alongside Muslims." Yeah, a statement like that, especially coming from a major political party, you can bet it was going to get a huge reaction. And oh boy, did it ever. The political backlash was instant, and it was fierce. I mean, this wasn't just a few people disagreeing. It was a full-on wave of condemnation coming from pretty much everywhere. And here's what's so fascinating. Look at who was pushing back. You had the Social Democrats, the Liberal NEOS Party, and even the Greens, who are supposed to be their partners in the government. This completely blew past typical party lines. So you had Yannick Shetty from the NEOS Party, who basically said the post was, quote, "fundamentally wrong and politically clumsy." His whole point was, look, when you paint an entire group of people as suspect, you're just making social divisions worse, not better. It's the opposite of what politicians should be doing. Then you have Leonore Gewessler from the Greens, and she really zeroed in on the human side of this. She said it's just shameful that people who've lived in Austria for decades, who've worked there and contributed so much, that they have to wake up and read something like this. So, with all this pressure coming from all sides, it all leads back to that apology we saw at the very beginning. So let's take a closer look at who actually said it and what the full context was.
Okay, so the person who stepped up was Finance Minister Markus Marterbauer. But here's the twist. He's not from the party that made the post. He's a social democrat, one of the opposition parties that was criticizing them. Think about that. For an opposition minister to issue such a major apology on a national issue, that's a really bold and honestly a very powerful political move. It's like he was stepping in to say, hey, the government might be saying this, but that's not us. That's not the real Austria.
So Marterbauer makes this big move. And notice, he doesn't just jump straight to the apology. First, he makes a point to specifically talk about Austrians of Bosnian origin. He reminds everyone that they've been working in hospitals and trade and industry for decades. He says they are an integral part of this country. I guess he's laying down this foundation first, right? One of respect, of shared national identity. And then he delivers that line that brings us right back to where we started. "I apologize. This is not who we are." See, he wasn't just apologizing for a clumsy tweet. He was rejecting the entire idea behind it, basically saying it goes against the very character of Austria. So that still leaves the question, why? Why did one single post trigger such a massive cross-party response? Well, to really get that, you have to look at the bigger picture, the social context that this all happened in. Yeah, this kind of political talk doesn't just happen in a bubble. Look at this number. In 2022 alone, there were over 1,300 reported anti-Muslim attacks in Austria. That's a lot. And that number, it just hangs over this whole story, right? It shows that for a lot of people, the OVP's post wasn't just some clumsy wording. It felt like it was tapping into something very real and very dangerous. And that leaves us with a really tough question, one that goes way beyond Austria. How do we balance political messaging with the need to, keep society together? Where's the line between free speech and speech that can cause real harm and division? It really makes you think about the responsibility political leaders have, doesn't it?